The Battle of Midway took place in the Pacific Theater in World War II. It took place 6 months after Pearl Harbor and 1 month after the Battle of Coral Sea. The battle itself took place in the ocean around the island of Midway and took place on the island as well. The United States and the Empire of Japan were the main combatants, specifically the navies of both nations. The strength of the U.S. was 3 carriers, 7 heavy cruisers, 1 light cruiser, 15 destroyers, 233 carrier-based aircrafts, 127 land-based aircrafts, and 16 submarines. The Japanese had 4 carriers, 2 battleships, and 2 heavy cruisers, 1 light cruiser, 12 destroyers, 248 carrier-based aircrafts, and 16 float planes. The battle lasted from the 4th of June to the 7th, 1942. The leaders of the U.S. side were Chester W. Nimitz, Frank Jack Fletcher, and Raymond Spruance. Nimitz knew that he would need reinforcements and called Fletcher and Spruance in order to have a decisive win for the U.S.
The Japanese leaders were Isoroku Yamamoto, Nobutake Kondo, and Chuchi Nagumo. The number of U.S. casualties was 307 killed in action, and 1 carrier and 1 destroyer sunk. Also, 150 aircrafts were destroyed. For the Japanese, 4 carriers, 1 heavy cruiser, and 248 aircrafts were destroyed. 3,057 Japanese were killed and 37 were captured as
The Battle of Midway was one of the first naval battles to use aircraft carriers on both sides. This battle was the first clear win for the Americans in the Pacific Theater and led to the Japanese fleet being weakened immensely for the remainder of the war. After this battle, the Japanese offensive was beaten back severely and led to the end of the war. Without Midway, Japan may have come back and strike the U.S. again like it did at Pearl Harbor. The Battle of Tarawa took place in the Tarawa Atoll in the Gilbert Islands in the Pacific Ocean. It took place for 3 days, starting on November 20th and ending on November 23rd, 1943. It was the first American offensive in the critical Central Pacific region. It was the first time in the war that the United States faced serious Japanese opposition to an amphibious landing. The landings before meant little to no resistance, but this time, 4,500 Japanese defenders were prepared to fight to the death.
Casualties are pretty high, but as we found out later, blood plasma saves a lot of lives. When reinforcements arrive, we start moving up.
This is what the Japanese defenses looked like at the Battle of Tarawa.
There's a sign on the wall, but she wants to be sure, 'cause she... There's a songbird who sings sometimes all of our thoughts on this field.
The United States Marine Corps and Army, also the Japanese Army, were the main combatants in the conflict. The United States had 35,000 troops and 18,000 Marines. The Japanese had 2,619 troops, 2,200 labor workers, 14 tanks, 40 artillery pieces, and 14 naval guns. Julian C. Smith and Harry W. Hill were the main leaders, Smith controlling the Marines and Hill being a 4-star admiral. Keiji Shibazaki was the only Japanese leader. The casualties on the U.S. side were 1,696 killed and 2,101 wounded. The USS Liscombe Bay was sunk on the last day of fighting. However, nearly all Japanese were killed, the number being 4,690, and 17 soldiers captured, 129 laborers captured. The significance of the battle was it showed the Americans how hard and brutal the Japanese could really be. From this point on, the Japanese would fight hard and few would be captured, as many would commit suicide rather than be captured or fight till the death.
Commanding officer of the assault troops confers with his staff. One of our medium tanks remains in operation. Although at the end of the second day, D+1, we breathe a little easier, mortar squads continue to hammer enemy points of resistance.